Look who it is, everyone. It's only me. Hi, and welcome to day 83 of This Much Is True. That means I've only got about a week to decide whether I'm going to keep this podcast thing going or not. So it could be good news or bad news. I don't know. For the handful of disciples. Actually, let's start with some good news. Friends of mine, they've been trying for some time to have a child. And bingo, they recently were very successful. As a matter of fact, the wife had a beautiful little baby boy. Beautiful little blonde baby boy. And herself and her husband were totally over the moon. There was only one problem. The child is perfect in every way, but it was born without any eyelids. But with medical advancement these days, there was a surgeon in the hospital, and he just happened to be a specialist in skin graft. And he said, look, all is not lost. This isn't something I normally do, but I've got a suggestion for you. Look, if I go below the little guy's penis, right, I can do a kind of circumcision and give a skin graft, and he'll have perfectly formed eyelids. And the couple were delighted, but he said, no, before you get too excited, he said there could be just one small drawback. It's possible that he'll be cockeyed. Sorry for inflicting that on you. Today's show is all about people are strange, and I think you will agree there has been some pretty strange behaviour, especially when you look at the last few years. We won't even go there. But people are strange. And I'd like to start by saying, have a look at this, because it's relevant to the conversation. Ooh, what was she up to? Well, all will be revealed if you stick around. But people are strange, and from my own life, I can think of a very recent a spotting of someone being strange. I was out for a walk, and there was this guy, and I'd say he was no more than mid-20s. And it must have been a compulsive disorder of some kind, because he was touching every gatepost as he went along a road, and lampposts as well. He was just like, literally, it was as if he was ping pong ball thing, and he was touching every single gatepost you could see. And as I said, the lamppost, touch, and he was walking around frenetically. And also, he must have been taking it really seriously, because I watched him for some time, and oftentimes he'd double back as if I missed that lamppost. And he'd come back 20, 30 feet, and he'd go, and then he'd be repeating the process. And it just came out by sheer fluke. When I was at the dinner table, my eldest daughter, she said, there's this guy. And like, she'd seen him as well. Oh, she said he's well known in the area. So that's strange. So it's, it must be a compulsive disorder. The other thing, and I have to go way back. Oh, the guts of 40 years or so. Was this man used to keep popping up in my life, if you pardon the expression. I'd be out on the street, sometimes in the middle of town, and this guy used to kind of, do you ever hear the expression nodding acquaintance? So he'd give me this kind of mysterious look, and it was a bit off-putting, because I often read into the look. It was like, oh, I know something you don't. I know something about you, And I didn't know who he was. I had a suspicion he was someone who'd worked in the barracks that I grew up in, the army, being an army brat, the base or barracks. And he would, for years, he was turning up. And he'd never speak. It was just this kind of look and sometimes this smile. He was almost like someone who was a bit touched, but a bit gimpish. And that was really weird. He must be long gone at this stage, because he was a good 15, 20 years older than me, maybe more. I kind of blondie, marmalade-y coloured hair. I can still see him. And he'd just pop up unwanted at the most awkward of times as well. And we never talked. It was just like, oh, I know you. And he kind of looked at me like, I know you as well, but... And it was weird. And I was walking down Rathmines one time. Actually, it brings me to another story. But anyway, I won't go there just yet, because it brings me to Rathmines, where I grew up in Dublin. It's a borough of Dublin. And I was with a girl at the time. And you know when you're at that ugly stage where you're always going around with your arms around each other or around each other's waists. And that's when you could get an arm around my waist. And he popped up again. And I felt, this is a private moment I'm having here. And he looked at her, he eyed her and he eyed me, and he gave this mysterious smile again. So I remember saying to the lady I was with, I said, this guy, and I related the story I'm relating to you. And she said to me, why don't you just stop him someday and say, where do I know you from? And have a conversation with him. And that made far too much sense for me. I found this guy a bit creepy. I didn't know what he was going to come out with. But yeah, it was probably the most sensible thing that anyone said to me about it. Why don't you just have a word with him? The other story I remembered, which set that off about Rathmines, was I was walking down that same road one day. Oh, I was only about 15 or 16. And it was like something out of a dream. These slow motion dreams? This beautiful, and I mean she was, I can still remember, she was stunning. This beautiful blonde young woman was coming towards me. And suddenly her face lit up and she put her arms out. And almost like I had that kind of bunny in the headlights moment, but being young, dumb and full of cum, I suppose, and hormones, I took about point something of a second to kind of go, I don't know who she is, but she was coming towards me with her bosoms flowing and her beautiful hair and her arms outstretched. And she's smiling and she said, hey, hello. And in that split second, I went, yeah, I'm going to go for this. Where it'll lead, I don't know. And I ran towards her with my arms out and I went, hello. And suddenly I saw her face was aghast. And I turned around. There was a big 6-foot guy behind me, who obviously she was on very, very good terms with. And talk about wanting the ground to swallow you up. Oh my God, I slunk away and I could hear them laughing behind my back. So, the bit of video I showed you earlier, what was all that about? Well, someone who does listen on and off, erstwhile, to my show is my good sister. In fact, I'll put a link to her books, because she's a published author, down below, just for the hell of it, sure. You might be interested in curling up beside the fire some night like I do here. Except yours will be a real fire, and you'll have a real page turner on your hand. So, Tara Moore is her name. So Tara sent me this because Tara's getting a belt of me ding-a-ling. Excuse me, no incest here, but there you go, Tara, knock yourself out, because she's used the Proton Mail address, which is thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. Now you can go into the comments below, as you have been doing. Hello to Jerry as well recently. Susan, you're owed a belt to me ding-a-ling. Lovely Susan in Yorkshire. She also contacted me on thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. I like you to kind of use that if you could. It's hugely secure as well, that Proton Mail. thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. That's enough for saying that. So anyway, Sis sent me the following, and it's by way of explaining the video you watched earlier. And it says, She contacted me by mail and it says, "Not too long ago I had one of those Ring doorbell cams installed. I did that after I had some phantom doorbell ringing in the small hours of the morning on a few occasions, and never any sign of anyone." Now, these doorbells took human force to ring, so I know someone was doing it, but had no idea or why. Anyway, in the end, I disabled those doorbells, obviously the original doorbells, there were 2, and replaced them with the other yoke, the Ring.com doorbell. Anyway, at 5:20 a.m. one morning last week, my phone burst into life and told me someone was at the front door. Like a flash, I set it to live cam, and there, rummaging on the porch, was a woman I had never seen before in my life. But of course, you guys have. We might look at her again. Who knows? She was middle-aged, seemed to be fairly well-dressed, appropriate for the rotten weather anyway. She was hunkering down, and as she straightened up, wouldn't you know it, her face fucking pixelated. Sorry, the expletive was mine. I shouldn't have said that. Her face pixelated. Cue creepy music. Don't worry, I won't inflict a sound effect on you. Then, as she turned sideways, I got a good enough view to see that she was middle-aged and wearing quite distinctive clothing. I'm sure I'd know her if I ever bumped into her. She had a bag of some description on her wrist, which she casually threw over her shoulder as she took off. I knew she hadn't taken anything, as there was nothing to take, apart from big heavy plant pots. So I didn't rush to get up, but waited till it was light, probably sensibly so. Anyhow, out I go to see what, if anything, there was to see, and at first didn't see a damn thing. Then, suddenly, my eye was drawn over to one corner of the porch, and there in a neat little pile sat, wait for it, 3 jelly beans. Oh, 3 feckin' jelly beans. This woman had invaded my porch at stupid o'clock to plant jelly beans on my porch. 2 orange and 1 yellow, in case you were interested. Now, apart from being gobsmacked, we should have eaten them, then you'd definitely be gobsmacked. It set my mind in a frenzy. Who was she? Was there a significance to the jelly beans? All the time thinking giant beanstalks and Jack, in brackets. Had she dispensed this largesse to any of the other houses or just targeted our house? Turns out she just targeted ours. Some were quite annoyed she left them out. I posted this intrigue on Nextdoor, which is a neighbourhood website, and, as expected, got all sorts of replies back. Some a real scream, others more wary and positing all sorts of theories about burglar codes, like jelly beans were going to remain in situ and not be blown away by the wind or nabbed by a bird or animal. Were they perhaps a hex, covered in some bizarre Russian poison? Just the work of a nutter? Probably the latter. Still, it has intrigued and continues to intrigue many people. It's the jelly bean thing. So unlikely a thing to leave. Well, thank you, Tara. We've reviewed your footage, and will again, for the end of the show. And it looks benign enough, though, doesn't it? You know, it's like, it's kind of innocent, and it's nice in other ways. But then again, perhaps the jelly beans, I hope you haven't consumed them even, have maybe a coating of strychnine, or as you said, some kind of a Russian poison on it. I can't remember the name of that poison that they were using. What was it, in Salisbury a few years back? Supposedly, anyway, I don't know. I have my own theories about that. Back to the jelly bean fairy, that's what we'll call her. The jelly bean fairy. Yeah, and she does look very respectable, doesn't she? Yeah, she is of cake baking years, I suppose. but very respectable, and obviously feels you are worth not one or two, but 3 multicoloured jelly beans. I was thinking as well, because I'm doing this thing, you'll see it on YouTube, 195 countries in 195 days. So part of that is I relate all the flags of various countries around the world. And I can't think of any flag though that's 2 orange and a whatever it was. Yeah. What was it? What was the other one? 2 orange and a... Yeah, 1 yellow one. Yeah, maybe that was a national flag. No, I don't think so. Or maybe national colours. Or you could drive yourself mad. There's got to be some way of it's a pity, isn't it? Would any of the other ring.coms perhaps, although it might be pixelated again, pick up her reg number? No, probably not. Yeah. I don't know, it just looks like you are the lucky recipient, dear sister, of 3 jelly beans. Right, so anybody got stories about strange things? Please let us know, because this world is crazy. If it ain't one thing, it's another. I'm going to leave you with this song. I can't remember the singer's name. I think it was Dimple something or other. He is no longer with us. But it was a quirky little number from 1982 called If It Ain't One Thing, It's Another. I'd like you to hear it. If there's a couple of versions, this one may have a little bit of Bible text at the very end, but it's tastefully done and very worldly. So it goes a little bit schmaltzy towards the end. But otherwise, I found it always a very pleasant listen. And I hope you do as well. Take care, 'cause I care. Get in touch. This much is true at protonmail.com, or of course Nigel or Jerry or Susan or Tara or a few other people have been knocking around as well. You can leave your comments below if you want. If that's easier on you. Okay. See ya.
I'm making this song for all the people who at times in their lives feel bad. You know, when you feel like even your blues have blues. If it ain't one thing, it's another. If it ain't one thing, it's another. It's a crazy mixed up world. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Life is full of strife. People just aren't nice. Everybody's talking smack, running games on this and that. Racial resentment adds to discontentment. Talk to any guy, he'll tell you taxes are too high. Books, movies are corrupt. Suicide is way up. Kids are a sorry lot. Some folks say it's cause of pot. Phony ego trips. Wow, everyone has flipped. If it ain't one thing, it's another. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Everybody's shacking up. Married folks are packing up. Country's going up in smoke. Where is Noah with his boat? Blacks marching on D.C. 400 years, still not free. Martin paid all a man could pay. Still he's not a holiday. Folks messing with my mind. Make me a Frankenstein. This woman by my side, she's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Can't get my head on right. Problems day and night to calm my nerves. I've tried smoke. Doctors give me dope to cope. If it ain't it's another. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Oh, if it ain't. My funky 2-bit job went on strike. I put up with a lot of crap I don't like, and to add to my woes, this ugly woman named Sadie called and said she's having my baby. Lord have mercy. From my day of birth, I've called hell on earth. A number is all I am. Ain't got no friends, don't give a. If you ain't got no pull, you gotta put up with a lot of bull. This funky world is cold. Ought to flush myself down the. If it ain't one thing, it's another. 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 Whoa. My friends, I wonder if it's okay if I talk to you this evening. A long time ago, my old grandmother, bless her heart, used to sit me on her knee and pull out her good book. And she said, my son, my child, don't you ever get too grown, too famous, too rich, to forget the man upstairs. And she used to turn to Matthew chapter 24. And there the disciples were talking to the master, and they said, Lord, tell us what will be the sign of your coming and the end to all this confusion on earth. And the good Lord said, my children, watch out that nobody deceive you, for in the last days there'll be a lot of tribulation, wars and famines and earthquakes in different places on the earth, and there'll be no understanding among people. He said, but as you see these things occurring, don't you become too discouraged. Just lift your heads up high, because your deliverance is getting near. And he spoke about the proclamation about a coming kingdom or government of God that would eventually take over this earth and rule over the whole earth. And I turned to Daniel chapter 2. There Daniel describes that this kingdom will not be an earthly kingdom, but it will be ruled by God. And over in the book of Revelation, it talks about how there will be a lamb who is Jesus and his faithful 144,000 who would bring all mankind back to perfection. Some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And Isaiah a long time ago said, I see old people growing young again. I see lame people running and leaping just like a gazelle, and blind people will see again. And we won't have to worry about our children going outside to play at night. They'll be able to play with a snake, the other animal, and there'll be brotherhood and peace and tranquility on the earth. It makes me feel good when I read over in Revelation that it say God would wipe out every tear from my eyes. Yeah, that's in Revelation chapter 21. Why don't you pick up the good book and read about it for yourselves? And my friends, I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Life is certainly uncertain these days. I'm sure you'll agree to that. But keep dreaming a big dream. Get down on your knees and ask the big guy in the sky for his spirit to sustain you. And pray for me. I'll be praying for you. Good night.